You need to stand here and catch me.
I can do that if you'd like.
John, make sure the microphone is.
I'm wondering, is possibly the acoustics a little better this way?
Yeah,
Or is it better that way?
that way.
Either way.
This way?
Yes.
All right.
Can hear you fine.
Are you gonna talk of mine?
You are. Or you want me to see it? Or you want me to play catch up?
Sit down.
That's my Charlie, huh?
You know, ever since John called me 10 days, 2 weeks ago, I've thought a great deal about what can one say about somebody he's known and been close companions with for over 85 years. Since grammar school and junior high, high school, college, same fraternity, and so forth and so on. I thought at first, well, I've known Raj for so long and in such a young age, throughout the ages, so to speak, that maybe I would have some insights that those of you who didn't know him or meet him until later in life might find interesting. Then I started to think about that, and I recalled a book I once read by Mark Twain, the author of Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, and the Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. And this particular, I don't know if it was a book or a very long article, but it was the most boring thing I've ever read. Except that it concluded with something that I thought, this is very true. It's really very true. We stand up and talk about people and their qualities and so forth. But as Mark Twain was very definitive in wanting to point out, he said, no one knows me. No one knows the real me. And nobody else knows anyone else. We don't, if you think about yourself, for example, nobody knows how you think, what you think, when you think it, and so forth, and so on. So what we do is we judge people that we've known either short or long times by the exterior and not the interior. As far as the exterior, I think so much has been said about Roger's outward generosity and the rest of it that certainly I'm not going to repeat it. All I can say is that I think Roger and I, whether we were in the greatest generation, I let historians to decide that. I will say without a question, we were in the luckiest generation. In all respects, anybody that got through the war in one piece benefited from that. Our nation benefited from having come together and so forth. And to that extent, we were very, very fortunate. But we were also fortunate in another thing. And I think we were kind of the last generation to really practice this, if you will, that is that Roger and I had about every experience that two young boys growing up in the time we did, that you could do, except unless you were, wanted to get in trouble or something like that. And the other thing is, it was all outdoors. We never played inside. We never thought of it. Everything was outdoors. There was a book called Passages once that was really the chapters of a person's life. And so I thought of Roger and I in terms of passages. Well, I divided immediately into passage 1 and passage 2. Passage 1 being the school year, in which we didn't see that much of each other. We played together after school when we were younger and so forth, and then we all went into team sports and so forth. But it was the after school that both during the school year, but mainly during vacation, where Roger, who didn't have a mother, had a wonderful father, an older brother, an older sister, which is part of his legacy to me because I got to know those people. But we did everything that I think two kids can do, and in a sense of horses, of swimming, of boating, of racing, of hiking, backpacking, and sometimes one backpacking adventure we went for 13 days. We had two other young fellows. I was the oldest, 17 at the time, and we walked from Tuolumne Meadows to Kennedy Meadows, which is about 13 days, and we gave out food. But, in those days, you didn't worry about it. You figure, well, heaven will take care of me or something. But and the horses, we, clean the stables and smoke corn silk behind the barn and things like that. Which reminded me, though, that Roger was a one-of-a-kind kind of a guy. He really was. He never got in trouble. I mean, trouble with a school, or trouble with a local sergeant of the Piedmont Police Department, which was also Boy Scout master, and or that kind of thing. The closest that I was ever with him, when we almost got into trouble, was when 10 of us, when we were about juniors in high school, there was one of the 10 that hadn't gone through puberty yet. So he looked about 11 years old. And so we decided we'd all go to the movies, and we'd give this one kid, the guy that was young, a dime, and that would get him in. And then if he'd go and climb up the fire escape of the Paramount Theater, he could open the side door, and the rest of us could come in. That'd be 9 of us. And so that all went well until we all became nicely seated to look at the movie, and this usherette came up with her flashlight and said, "Come with me, boys." And like idiots, we followed her, all 10 of us, and we went into the manager's office, who we thought was about to call the Oakland police, and that would be the end of us all if that happened, as far as our parents were concerned. And it turned out that his phone rang, and as he turned his back to go in and answer the phone, somebody decided, or shall we say, we all decided that maybe this was the end of the interview, and we should depart. And I will say that Roger was a part of that group, and he contributed his penny to pay for the thing. When we left in a hurry. And I will say that Roger was the fastest one out. So anyway, Raj leaves a legacy, not only of Excel, but of one of the people that I got to know through him, or that I already knew, but because of him, we would see each other more often. In the olden days, there was Roger, there was Bud Hughes, there was Ken Holland, and ad infinitum. Some of you, of course, never knew those wonderful people, but and then I think one of the wonderful things that has happened, and I don't know whose idea it was to have the Hexcel breakfast. And I think that that's a marvelous group, and really an unusual group of the loyalty and of the friendships that you guys have retained. Once upon a time, I did attend some of those breakfasts, and I was very grateful and very appreciative and enjoyed them immensely. But because of personal reasons, which I won't go into, I felt that perhaps I should not. And but I know that they still continue, and Roger, even when he was in his last legs, so to speak, here, went there. But anyway, thank you all for listening, and that's all I can say.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.